Hello and welcome to Rathod Science Academy. Today in this session we are going to see current affairs of 31st January 2026. So let's get started with our discussion and let us see the important topics of the day. The first topic is menstrual health in schools is integral to right to life, says Supreme Court. So there is one more Supreme Court judgment which says about expansion of Article 21, and this article is very important from your GS paper 2 under polity. And next topic is about enforcement directorate. There is one article related to this enforcement directorate, and in 2025 there was a question related to this organizations, and they belongs to which ministry type of question. So you may get a prelims based question related to this enforcement directorate. So we are going to see some basic facts related to that. And next topic is forest fires. Recently we studied that there is a forest fire in Uttarakhand, especially in this valley of flowers, and even Uttarakhand state government cannot take certain steps to stop that wildfire. And for that, what happened? Uttarakhand government reached Indian Air Force to take certain help to stop this wildfire. And one more wildfire which is there in news in Arunachal Pradesh now. So here we have to see what are the exact reasons related to this wildfires in this Himalayan belt this year. And next topic is UGC equity rules flow from Article 15's mandate to remedy historical injustice. This article is talking about UGC equity rules. So here you have to see what are these UGC equity rules and what Supreme Court said in recent judgment. And there are many articles in our today's newspaper related to this Supreme Court stay on UGC rules. You may get a possible question in your prelims related to this UGC rules. And this topic is important from GS paper to under governance point of view. And next topic is high tap coverage under Jal Jeevan mission but lower usage, reliability. So this article is talking about one important scheme. If you are getting any schemes in your newspaper, there is a very high chance of getting question related to that. Every year in your prelims, at least 3 questions related to schemes you can see, guys. And next topic is green steel can shape India's climate goals trajectory. So here we have to see what is this concept of green steel, and even we discussed about India-European trade deal. One important challenge in that trade deal is carbon tax. What is carbon tax? European Union will be imposing tax on the products which will release more and more carbon dioxide emissions, right? So here steel, aluminium and iron products, they will attract this carbon tax, right? So if you want to boost export of the steel, iron and aluminium, obviously what steps we have to take? We have to reduce carbon dioxide emissions from these areas, right? So in that context, we have to focus on green steel, which is nothing but environmentally sustainable steel production. And this topic is important from GS paper 3 under environment and ecology, and even we can see under economy point of view and even international relations point of view. Okay, so these are the topics of the day. Now let us see each and every topic in detail. Let's read out the title, guys. Menstrual health in school is integral to right to life, says Supreme Court. Here you may get a question, analytical based question here. Please listen here properly. Especially women, if you are going to interview, you will be getting more questions related to women health, women problems, women empowerment, women safety related issues. On these areas, you will be getting for sure interview questions. At least 3 to 4 minutes, the questions will be based on this women related areas. And here this article is talking about schools. So actually, especially in this secondary schools, there will be high dropout rates. Yes or no? So if you see about education and dropout rates in India, in this secondary school level, we can see more dropouts. Especially at the secondary level, girls dropouts will be more. The major reason here is there is no proper menstrual health related sanitation, every kind of infrastructure in this secondary schools. So here you may get a question here is, India is focusing on women empowerment, India is focusing on gender budgeting. Despite of this, there is a very high dropouts of girls at the secondary schools. If you are a district administrator, what kind of steps you can take to reduce this dropouts of girls in the schools? In this way, you may get a question. And you may get one more type of question here is, yes, Government of India is taking a lot of steps to improve safety of women, and government is installing CCTV cameras. Government is also integrating AI in public places. Don't you think that government is lagging behind providing the basic sanitation services in the government schools? What is your opinion on it? So in this way, they will be giving you critical, analytical, situational based questions, and you have to be thorough about that. And here there is one more article which mainly talked here, that is Article 21. What is Article 21 talks about? Right to life and personal liberty is Article 21. Here, one more interview question you can get here is, can you tell me recent cases which expanded the scope of Article 21 in 2025 or 2026? You have to know that. For example, we have in 2025 there is a judgment which says that right to sleep also comes under Article 21. Right to play outside for children also comes under Article 21. And also right to clean environment is also Article 21. And one more recent Supreme Court judgment in 2026 is menstrual health in school also comes under ambit of Article 21. So here you may also get a mains based question like, right to life and personal liberty, Article 21 is expanding day by day. Do you think is it a judicial activism? Have you understood? Do you know what is judicial activism concept? Judicial activism, judicial restraint. So in this way, they will link the static concepts with what is happening in the current affairs. And you have to link both. Are you understanding? So now let us see this article, why Supreme Court expanded this ambit of Article 21, we have to see. If you say this context of this article, it is saying that Supreme Court of India in a judgment ruled that right to menstrual health and access to menstrual hygiene management in school is a fundamental part of right to life and dignity. So now you guys think why Supreme Court expanded this ambit? What do you think? How it is going to affect right to life and personal liberty if we are not considering this menstrual health management under this article? Why Supreme Court gave this judgment? Any idea? Come on, think. You have to think or else you will not get. Spoon feeding is not at all good for UPSC. It is not your school or intermediate college, right? Come on, think. Why Supreme Court gave this judgment? What do you think? What are the reasons behind it? How it is going to affect the life of the girls? Come on, girls, speak out. Yes, right to education. Which article talks about it? Article 21A. Can you tell me which age group are included under that Article 21A? 6 to 14. Okay, next. Yes, right. Right to education get violated. Next. Other things. Come on, think. Is that dropout good for the future of the girl? How it is going to affect the future of a girl if you are going for dropouts? Come on, think. Online students, tell me in the comment box. Yes, she can't be independent. Yes. Next. She may not get good employment opportunities in future. Next. Come on, come on. Violation of Article 14, 15, okay. To some extent accepted. Next. Come on, think. It is a basic question. Okay, now let us see why this ruling. The first important point here is Supreme Court linked menstrual health to dignity of life of the girl, because during that menstrual periods she will be facing stigma, humiliation and exclusion, which will lead to the undermining of dignity of life during this time. The first important point. And next one here is, if there are no facilities in the schools, that will lead to forced absenteeism of a girl. And next one here is, sometimes they have to go for unsafe practices that will violate their privacy, bodily autonomy, and right to education on equal terms with boys. That is, Article 14 is getting violated. Boys will be not having that kind of issue. They can go to the school happily, but girls are facing this kind of problem. So because of this Article 14, right to equality is getting violated here. And this one here is menstrual poverty creates gender specific barriers, and that will defeat our Right to Education Act. When we came up with this Right to Education Act, year anyone? 2000? 2005 is MG Narega and Right to Information Act, RTI. Right to Education Act, which year? Srimant? Not 2. Geeta? Neha? It is 2009. Right to Education Act of 2009. What is the aim of this act? To provide free and compulsory education. Because education, if you're providing education, obviously that will lead to overall development, and as well as that will lead to personal and as well as societal participation as well. If we are not ensuring proper menstrual health management in the schools, obviously it will be going to affect personal development of the child in the future. And next one here is, always girls will choose between dignity and as well as education. And because of this, what happened? Always they will give priority for the dignity rather than education. Because of this, there are increasing of dropouts in India, especially at this secondary education level. Okay, so that is the thing. These are the things which are taken into account by Supreme Court, and Supreme Court gave a judgment that yes, right to menstrual health management is very important, and it is part of Article 21 for girls. Okay, what is the impact of this ruling? What do you think? Is that good or bad? Good. Okay, how it is going to improve? Will it leads to improve uh, girls going to schools or education of girls? What do you think? Do you think there are any barriers still, even though if it is declared by Supreme Court as a right, as a part of Article 21? Do you think, do we have any bottlenecks or challenges that we have to face despite of judgment? What do you think? What are those bottlenecks? Come on, you have to talk or else you can't. Okay, Orthodox families accepted. Next. Yes, very good. Lack of infrastructure will be a bottleneck. Next. If you want to create infrastructure, is that happens with free of cost? We need to have lots of funds. How much amount of investment government is doing in this education? In health, yesterday we discussed 1.5 to 2%, which is far less compared to that of other countries. What about education? How much percentage of GDP government is investing in education? Come on, think. Don't sit idle. Okay, let us see the impact. The first one here is, of course, this ruling, if government schools are improving their infrastructure, if schools are focusing on this management of menstrual health, obviously we can reduce the school absenteeism and as well as dropout rates among the girls, so that we can improve the access of education to the girls. That will lead to increased economic activities and as well as economic participation and as well as societal participation of a girl. They will not feel that they are excluded from the society. Next one here is, of course, it promotes gender equality, and even it ensures girls can attend classes without health related barriers. That will lead to increase of overall literacy of our country. And next one here is, the stigma around this menstruation will be reduced and overall environment in the school will be inclusive. And next one here is, we can make schools accountable so that they can encourage better infrastructure investments as par with private institutions. Okay, next one is, we can strengthen our constitutional rights under Article 21 and we can increase the scope and ambit of Article 21. So here your work is, you have to see why Article 21 scope is expanding. Think about that, and you have to make the list of certain cases in the recent past which increased the ambit of Article 21. It is very important. On this Article 21 itself in 2019, And even in 2023, if I'm not wrong, there were questions. That was a simple repeated question. Right to privacy comes under which article? Okay, so see in that way. Now let us see the next article. Look at the title. ED attaches fresh assets worth 5 crore rupees in case against late IAS officer. So you're not going to bother about what is the political issue, what he did, everything. So just we have to focus on ED. Why? Because last year there was a simple question. In 2025, the question goes like this. They gave two columns. In one column, they gave this kind of organizations, and on another column, they gave like which ministry they belongs to. That is very simple question. Every day we'll see ED and as well as some other organizations, but we will not see like to which ministry it is related to, and it works under which ministry, what is the roles and responsibilities. If you're ignoring this kind of small things, the cost will be very high in prelims. Okay, now let us see some facts regarding this ED Enforcement Directorate. The Director of Enforcement or Enforcement Directorate is a domestic law enforcement agency, and it is economic intelligence agency. That means it will be dealing with the cases related to corruption in our country. Okay, when it was formed in year 1956, and it got its roles and responsibilities under this Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. And it comes under Ministry of Finance, and it works under Department of Revenue. They asked about this Department of Revenue in 2025 prelims. And you know about this objectives, right? It will be getting its own responsibilities and roles under the three acts. You have to remember that. First one is Foreign Exchange Management Act. That means what it is focusing on? Exchange of currency. So have you ever seen in many movies, if this income tax people are going for raid in some big influential person's house, what we'll see? We can see money which is stored in other currency like dollars, euros, like that. They will say that it is against. Who will be saying that it is against? Why we cannot keep the money in other currency? So it is according to this Foreign Exchange Management Act. So here this Foreign Exchange Management Act is giving the power to this ED. If they are finding any money which is stored in other countries, they can confiscate that money. And next one here is we have Prevention of Money Laundering Act. What is money laundering? Converting black money into white money. So what are the methods commonly used to convert black money into white money? Hawala transactions. Next. Lottery. How lottery? Have you heard about shell companies? What are these shell companies? Fake companies. Only for the namesake they will be there, but no operations. But they will show that they will route this black money towards that company, and they will show that yes, I got this revenue from that company. Do you know about this tax havens? What are these tax haven countries? What are these tax havens? What happens in these tax havens? So you have to pay minimum tax or zero tax based on the profits that you're earning from that company. So how this shell companies are used for money laundering? So which agreement is that? Double tax avoidance agreement, DTAA. What is double tax agreement says that? Double tax avoidance agreement says that if, for example, I am from India, I have certain black money and I want to convert it into the white money. What I'll do here is I will reach this tax haven countries, especially certain countries where there is very less amount of tax should be paid or 0% of tax. For example, Mauritius. I'll go and I will establish a shell company in Mauritius, and I will not do any operations, I will not run any business there. But I will enroute whatever the black money that I earned in India towards this Mauritius, and I'll show that the income that I got from that company from Mauritius itself, and I'll show that I paid tax there. I will paying zero tax because it is a tax haven. And India and Mauritius already had this DTAA, that is double tax avoidance agreement. According to this, it says that if I am paying tax in one country, it is enough. There is no need of paying in two countries. So here in this way, I can enroute my black money towards this Mauritius and I can convert into a white money. This is one example of money laundering. Have you seen this movie Shivaji? In that movie, they'll show about Hawala transactions clearly. They'll show one currency note, the number of that currency note had to be told to that person in another country, and they will be giving you the money. No idea. Okay, that is one example of Hawala transactions. Okay, now let us see the next article. See this image. What can you see here? Waterfall, huh? Is it a waterfall? Oh, come on, what is that image? It is a forest area. Yes. Smoke. Is it smoke or snow or fog? Forest fire. Okay, so here you can see one red color bucket type. So it is nothing but heli bucket. Heli bucket suspended from an Air Force helicopter, and this bucket is releasing water to stop forest fire in Arunachal Pradesh in one valley called as Lohit Valley. Air Force. So here you can see, we can connect this image with forest fires. In which subject we can connect this? Environment. And even in your GS paper 1, in your GS paper 1 we have geography. Okay, in that geography also you will be studying about this topic called as natural vegetation. In that natural vegetation you will be seeing about different types of forest across India. Can you tell me different types of forest in India? Evergreen forest in which location? Evergreen forest is in northeastern, Western Ghats. Next, Andaman and Nicobar. Okay, next, other kind of forest? Deciduous. Okay, next, tropical deciduous. Tropical deciduous. Next, mangrove forest. Next, okay, thorny forest or scrub forest. And in mountain regions, which kind of forest we can see? Mountain and alpine. What is this? Coniferous? Cone-shaped trees. Where we can see this cone-shaped trees? On high altitude regions, right? So in this coniferous and alpine forest, now we are facing this problem of forest fires. And in Uttarakhand, recently we discussed in which valley we have this forest fire? Valley of Flowers. And now it is Lohit Valley. How can you expect a question here? They'll give you state, they'll give you valley. Is that a possible question? Because in two valleys we have forest fires. So there is a chance of getting a prelims question. They may give you state on one column and they'll give you valleys on another column, and they'll give you 3 to 4. And they may ask you which are the correct pairs and incorrect pairs. That is one possible question from your prelims. And this one here is, in which area these forest fires are happening? In mountainous areas. That means from natural vegetation chapter, you may get a question regarding coniferous forest and alpine forest. Like you have to see what is the altitude, which kind of flora and fauna we can see, rainfall, temperature. You will be having that table, right? So go through that table and focus should be more on this evergreen forest and as well as this mountain forest. Why evergreen forest? Because we are going to have this Nicobar project. So in which area, in which forest? Evergreen forest. So these two are the possible questions from this natural vegetation this year. In this way you can expect around 40 to 45 topics where you can expect questions in your prelims. Okay. And from mains point of view, you have to see about forest fire management, especially in this high altitude areas. Because if this kind of forest fire are happening in this Telangana or in this plain region, it is very easy to manage. Yes or no? But what is the problem here is, what are the problems that we discussed earlier to manage these fires in this Uttarakhand region? Why they asked help of IAF, Indian Air Force. Here also, Indian Air Force is doing this kind of operations by using these heli buckets. What are the challenges we can face? Yes, difficult terrain. Okay, in that terrain, what exactly the challenges? Dense forest region. And actually, that forest is famous for its own biodiversity. If humans are going and intervening in that area, obviously it will be having impact on environment and biodiversity of that region. That is the first thing. Next one is We have steep slopes. That is the difference between Western Ghats and Himalayas, right? Western Ghats are stable, Himalayas are not stable. Why? Because of steep slopes. Slopes are very steep. And next, it is, come on, think. Himalayas are formed by huh? Sedimentary rocks. Are they stable like this igneous rocks? No. This Himalayas are located in highly tectonically active region. So because of there is a very high chance of landslides, avalanches in that area. So reaching these places will become very, very difficult. So because of this, we are asking help of IAF. Okay, now let us see here what are the reasons for this forest fires, especially in this Himalayan belt. The problem here this year is because of rising of temperature. There is no proper snowfall. Because of this, what happened? This area become very dry. They are catching fires now. The first reason here is rising temperature, extended dry winters, no rainfall or very little snowfall in this region. It is one major reason. And next one here is human induced ignition. For example, if you're going for stubble burning or like shifting, do you know this shifting cultivation? What does shifting cultivation is about? Okay, slash and burn techniques, right? So that is also one important reason. And next one is there is increasing of biomass on solid waste in this region, especially certain villagers are going for intentional firing or like burning of waste. That is also one important reason that is contributing around 95% of fires in this Himalayan regions. And next one here is there is dominance of certain species of plants like chir pine species. These species of plants will dry up very easily, and even whenever the wind blows means what happened if this trees are having friction one against other, they will produce fire. That is also one important reason. Okay, and if you see reasons related to Uttarakhand, the first one here is it is having high density of chir pine. That means you may also get a question related to this chir pine related trees also, because it is one of the dominant species of plant in this Uttarakhand region, and it is the major reason for this forest fire in Uttarakhand now. And this one here is extreme dryness, and as well as villagers, they are close to the forest. If they are increasing anthropogenic activities and if they are doing any activities, obviously that will lead to forest fires. And especially in Arunachal Pradesh is famous for slash and burning or else shifting cultivation. That is one important reason. And this one is dry winters and moisture level is less. And this one here is government is also not taking proper steps to prevent this fire in initial stages. Because of that, these fires are spreading a lot and it is becoming unmanageable. So these are the some important reasons which are given. Okay, and you have to remember this. And this is one interview question. I asked to a person who came from Uttarakhand. Okay, let us see the next article. And most of the articles in today's paper are related to this UGC equity rules. Read out the title. UGC equity rules flow from Article 15 mandate to remedy historical injustice. Okay, so here tell me what is this historical injustice is about. That is a keyword, right? What is historical injustice? And which are the group of people who are facing this historical injustice in India? Okay, SC, ST, they are the people who are very vulnerable in India. Why these people are facing this historical injustice? What are the reasons behind it? If we trace back to the history, which period we can go? And in which period we can find the roots? Vedic period. That is in ancient period or in ancient history we can get the roots. What happened in this Vedic period? What happened in this Vedic period that led to this historical injustice of these groups? Caste system evolution, right? During this Vedic period, we came up with the caste system. Whenever we came up with this caste system, what was the basis we have? Chaturvarna system. What is this Chaturvarna system? We have Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras. Okay, in early Vedic period, this caste system is based on occupation, what are the work that you're doing. But later on, we entered into this later Vedic period. In this later Vedic period, this caste system become very rigid. And from now onwards, it is based on birth. Earlier it is very fluid. If you're changing your occupation, you can change your caste. But from this later Vedic period onwards, it became very rigid. If you're changing your occupation also, you cannot change your caste. And even today in India, changing caste is very, very difficult. We cannot, right? Because it is based on birth. Okay, now you guys tell me why this Chaturvarna system made this scheduled caste and scheduled tribe people more vulnerable. Why they are facing injustice? What is the reason? Do these SC and STs included under that Varna system? These SCs and STs are outside of this Varna system, right? And tell me which kind of occupation they'll do. STs, scheduled tribe people used to live in the forest and they majorly depend on forest produce. And scheduled caste people, they used to do occupation of sanitation, cleaning, everything. So because of their occupation, they are like very vulnerable, and there is caste based discrimination which was present during that time. And even till today also we can see this kind of caste based discrimination despite of lots of affirmative actions taken by the government. What are the affirmative actions taken by the government to promote the welfare of the scheduled tribes and scheduled caste? First one is reservation policy, reservation in education as well as reservation in jobs. Apart from that, Article 17, what it talks about? Abolition of untouchability. And next, any other schemes? Huh? Article 14 talks about right to equality, and it says that there should not be any discrimination based on caste, religion, race, etc. Next. Yeah, we have National Commission for SC, National Commission for ST, and National Commission for OBC or BC. Yes, next. We are promoting minority languages of STs and as well as other peoples. Next. Yes, we have SC, ST Atrocities Act. Very good. Next. Come on, think. Yes, reservation in local self-governing bodies like panchayats and municipalities, 33%, and even women also getting extra reservation under this Nari Shakti Act. Next. Come on, think, you can do it. Any other thing do you need to add here? Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 areas. Schedule 6 talks about AMMT. Which are the states included in this Schedule 6? Arunachal? Assam? Meghalaya? Mizoram? Tripura. Okay. What about the Schedule 5? 10 states. Okay. Now let us see this article. So now you understood like what is historical injustice and which groups are facing this and why they are facing this. So you came to know certain history and background of this. Now let us see what is this UGC. What is this UGC? UGC means full form. You completed graduation. Tell me what is the full form of UGC? University Grants Commission. That means it is focusing on what? Higher education. Okay, what are the problems in higher education in India? Ragging. So here this article is saying that there is discrimination based on caste is happening in university levels in higher education. To prevent that, UGC came up with this guidelines called as UGC equity rules. Are you understanding? So in higher education, discrimination based on caste is happening. To prevent that, UGC came up with this UGC equity rules. And now let us see what is the controversy now related to this UGC equity rules. Now what happened, why it is in news? Because Supreme Court gave a stay on UGC equity rules to be implemented in higher education. Because of this is in news. So here what you have to see is what are this UGC equity rules is about, and you have to see what are the problems related to this, and you have to see why Supreme Court gave the stay. If you understand this, then your work is done. There is also one editorial today related to this equity rules. If you see this context, it says that Supreme Court of India has stayed implementation of UGC rules. The full form of this is University Grants Commission, Promotion of Equity in Higher Education Institutions Regulations 2026. So now why it is in news? Supreme Court gave a stay for implementation. Okay, if you see about the background here, UGC came up with the new rules. They are commonly called as UGC equity regulations. And this new rules are going to replace earlier rules which came up by UGC in year 2012. Why? Because why this rules came up by this UGC is to ensure that there is no discrimination based on caste, so that they can promote equity and inclusion in this education campuses. And the primary focus it is to address discrimination, especially caste based, against marginalized sections like SC, ST and other backward classes called as OBCs. So what is the controversy? The first one here is, in these rules, they didn't define clearly what is this caste based discrimination. Caste based discrimination is very narrow definition they gave, so that we are not accepting that. That is the first criticism. And next one here is critics also arguing that there is hierarchy of victimhood. For example, if you take this ST, SC and OBC, OBC stands first, later on ST, later on SC, like that. In this different caste also there is hierarchy. We are not going to accept that. And next one here is, rules could be misused many a times. Example, ragging cases where a general category fresher resists a senior from a reserved category. So here, based on the category they are coming from, sometimes in ragging also there is discrimination is showed based on this caste also. That is also one criticism which mainly showed here. And the definition is seen as exclusionary, potentially divisive and not inclusive of all form of discrimination. For example, they are not including regional, culture or different kinds of discrimination. So because of this, Supreme Court took this petitions and Supreme Court gave this stay. And once Supreme Court gives a green signal, then only UGC will implement this UGC Equity Rules 2026 in the higher education to prevent discrimination against this caste people. Okay. Yeah, now let us see the next article. Look at the title. High tap coverage under Jal Jeevan scheme but lower usage reliability. So what is this Jal Jeevan scheme is about? Jal Jeevan mission. In that image you can see government is trying to provide water through functional taps in rural areas. Okay, that is good. Here the second part of this title says that lower usage and reliability. Now you guys tell me, why people are not using it to full potential? What do you think? What do you think? What are the reasons why people are not using it? Okay, if you're getting water to your home, when will you not use? Tell me from your perspective. Okay, when it is not clean. Sanitation issue? Okay. If water is dirty, will you use that? Next. Come on, tell me from your home, your parents' mindset point of view, like when will you not use that water? One is sanitation issue. Next. Timings? Yes or no? If water comes at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., we will not get up at that time. So timings issue. Next. I'm not asking intelligent question, general question I'm asking. Tell me. Huh? Okay, water bill. Okay, fear of water bill. Next. Next. When will you not use the water? If you're getting water also to your home. Huh? Okay, rainy seasons. Next. Come on, think. Come on, think guys. Okay, if you're having more bore wells, okay. So here the reasons they gave here in this paragraph is, first one here is regularity. If they're coming every day at that time, we can go and we can use the water. For example, if they're coming once in a week or twice in a week and we don't know exactly at which time Will we open the tap all the times? No. That one is irregularities happening in many areas, because of that people are not using that water. That is the second reason. And next one is availability of water. If they are having their own tube wells or their own bore wells, or if that area is very rich in water, will they use this water from the pipelines? That is the second one, availability of water. If they're not having water availability, then only they will use. Especially in Rajasthan, if you keep this will be like a more success program, because Rajasthan is having water scarcity. And next one here is cleanliness, as you said. Recently we discussed about water contamination. Which state? Indore. In which state? Madhya Pradesh, right? So what was the reason that we discussed there? Municipal water is mixing with sewage water. So which pipeline, which river pipeline is it? Which river? Narmada. Yeah, Narmada river water pipeline is having certain leakages, because of that sewage water is mixing with the municipal water. And if that kind of news become very viral, will people have the trust on this kind of municipal water? That is the major reason. So these are the major reasons which mainly said in this article, which led to this low usage of the water. Now you guys tell me, if you are a district magistrate and you got a report that in your area very less percentage, less than 10 percentage of people are using this pipeline, there is increasing of pressure on you from the higher authorities to increase the water usage. So what kind of steps you can take to increase the water usage in your area through this Jal Jeevan mission? Huh? Okay, how can you increase trust, Kiran? You will drink water. Huh? Okay, monitoring of, okay, monitoring and testing of quality of water. Next. Hmm? Okay, maintaining regular timings of water, and you will make aware that so and so timings you will be getting water through this taps. Next. Action on, how can you keep, I have my own borewell in my house. How can you keep limitation on my borewell? I will only pay my electricity bill. Who are you to say that I should not use that? Are you understanding? Next. Digital access, how? Okay, we need to go for grievance redressal mechanism. Okay, next. Come on, think, what can you do? Hmm? Huh? How can you prioritize the need? Mm. Mm. Okay, you'll focus on only the areas who need water. Mm. Okay, next. Okay, think on this. Today case study will be on this Jal Jeevan mission. Okay, you may get a question regarding this Jal Jeevan mission. They'll give you in this way. Here from this article, you may get two types of questions. The first one here is, you'll get pair-based question. On one side, they'll be giving you different schemes under which ministry they works, and you have to identify which are the correct or incorrect pairs. And second type of question is, consider the following statements regarding Jal Jeevan mission, and they'll give you 3 to 4 statements, and you have to answer. And actually, this mission is focusing on providing of sanitated water to the rural areas. That means you may also get a question in which they can mix schemes related to rural areas. Which are the other schemes related to rural areas apart from this Jal Jeevan mission? What is the new act? What is the new act? VBG Ramji. So one statement they will give about Jal Jeevan mission, second statement they will give about VBG Ramji Act, and third statement they may give about PM Suryaghar Muft Bijli Yojana. Like that, they can intermix 3 or 4 schemes related to rural areas. That means you have to make the list of schemes of rural areas. Are you understanding? So in this way, you can expect a question. You will be not having every time the single monotonous type of questions in UPSC. There will be mix every year. Remember this, 20% of your questions and question patterns will be changed every year. Every day we need to have the different types of food, right? If you are eating daily upma, will you eat daily for 1 year? In the same way, UPSC will be also changing the patterns of questions, and you will be experiencing different types of questions every year. At least 20 types of questions can be changed. Okay, and you have to be habituated with that kind of questions. You have to ensure that you are good at adaptability. You need to get this adaptability kind of things in your life. Okay, let us say this Jal Jeevan Mission. It was launched in year 2019, and it is focusing on providing safe, adequate drinking water. We are focusing on drinking water, not irrigation water or not water for this households or anything. And next one here is they are focusing on providing how functional household tap connections by 2024 to all rural households in rural India. And next one here is they are focusing on especially providing of drinking water. That is nothing but to improve sanitation in rural areas, and it works under Ministry of Jal Shakti. Very, very important. Ministry of Jal Shakti. And if you see the components, they are focusing on tap water connection, and they are focusing on planning, implementation, operation, maintenance, and they are focusing on involvement of women in planning, decision making, and implementation monitoring. And they are focusing on especially providing of water to the schools, tribal hostels, Anganwadi centers, and even local people are skilled for building and as well as maintaining the water structures, and they are focusing on even water recycling. Especially, do you know this grey water? Have you heard about this grey water? What is this grey water is about? What are the water which is used in bathrooms and as well as kitchens? So here that water should be recycled under this Jal Jeevan mission. Do you know about the soak pits? Soak pits. No idea. What are the water it is coming outside as a waste that will be entering into a pit which will be present before the homes. Every house will be having a soak pit. Especially this model is very much success in Rajasthan for better water management. So see about the soak pits. And the funding pattern is 50-50% between central and states for normal states. That means is it a central sector scheme or centrally sponsored scheme? Yes, centrally sponsored scheme. And for Himalayan northeastern states, the funding is 90 to 10 percentage. And in case of UTs, 100% funding will be provided by central government. On this also UPSC asked question related to funding. And they asked in 2019 the question related to the difference between centrally sponsored scheme and central sector scheme. It had been many years. UPSC can ask once again the question on that. So focus on that. What is central sector scheme and what is centrally sponsored scheme? And see this next article, guys. Title says green steel can shape India's climate goals trajectory. So what are the India's climate goals? Climate goals. We have to increase our renewable energy. What is the renewable energy target of India? 500 gigawatts by 30. Next, other targets. Zero carbon neutrality by 2070. Other goals. We have to reduce carbon dioxide emissions by 50 percentage. Next, other goals. Okay. PM 2.5. What is the target? Complete it. Do you know about INDCs, India's intended nationally determined contributions? Can anyone tell me about that? What are the India's intended nationally determined contributions under this COP? Hemant, chappu Hemant. Come on guys. So write down about INDCs of India. You will get lots of questions related to environment, and you can use that INDCs wherever it is possible in your essay, in your mains, whenever you're writing your environment related answers. That will become a value addition points for you in your answers, guys. Okay, now let us see this article. This article is saying that we have to go for adoption of green steel production. What is this green steel? We can go for steel production, but it has to reduce less amount or minimal amount of carbon dioxide emissions. That is called as a green steel. Green steel is defined as a steel produced using low carbon technologies. Okay, for example, recently many steel companies had been adopted technologies. For example, have you heard about this Tata Steel? Everyone knows about this Tata. Tata is famous for steel. And this Tata Steel companies adopted hydrogen injection pilots and renewable power agreements, so that they are trying to reduce this carbon dioxide emissions. And even we have JSW Steel and JSPL Steel. They are focusing on green hydrogen integration in their companies. And next one is we have SAIL. SAIL is focusing on furnace modernization. So in this way here, different steel companies are upgrading their infrastructure and technologies to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. So here this article is saying that we need to have more such kind of agreements and as well as technology, so that we can make our near zero carbon dioxide emissions. Okay, why we are focusing on this green steel? Because steel is an industry which releases lots and lots amount of carbon dioxide into atmosphere. So we have to reduce this kind of carbon dioxide emissions. Because of this, now government is focusing on this green steel, and government is focusing on increasing of millions of investment on this kind of technology to make our steel industry green. And next one here is this sector, which is contributing around 12 percentage of India's total emissions. And if we are decreasing that, we can achieve our climate goals. And we can avoid this carbon tax on India's steel products which are exported to European Union. And we discussed about this carbon tax in yesterday's class. And this one is, as you all know, that India is leader of Global South. And what is this Global South is about? It is a group of developing and least developed countries across the world. And India is a leader there. India has to showcase how it is targeting climate and how it is taking certain steps to achieve our goals. So for that also, we need to focus on renewable energy and as well as clean technology. And what are the challenges we have to adopt this? First one is we need lots of investments. And even if you are getting that technology, we need to have this skilled workers. If no skilled workers, will they use that? Obviously no. And this one is we need to get that technology. Do we have that kind of technology? No. Do you know this Venezuela? Venezuela is a country which is having world's largest oil reserves. But even though India white is importing only less than 0.3%, what is the issue? Do we have any trade issue with this Venezuela? Do we have any conflict with this Venezuela? Is Venezuela is our enemy nation? No, but even though just 0.3 percentage of oil we are importing, the major reason is this oil is having high sulfur content. And if you want to go for faster distillation and we have to go for removal of this sulfur, means we need to have desulfurization technology. But we are lacking in that. Because of that reason only, we are not getting more and more oil from this Venezuela. Despite of this Russian Sanction Act, issues on India, tariffs on India. The reason here is we don't have technology. Okay, so here the problems here is lack of technology and we have to invest more. And if we are focusing on this industrial sector, industries are mostly, we have private industries in our country. Do these private industries focus on public service? Whether they will focus on achievement of climate goals, they will always focus on profit maximization. If they want to increase profit, what they'll do? They'll get cheap technology. Why they will invest in this high-end technology? That is also one important problem in our country, guys. Okay, see these questions. First one, which of the following statements is correct regarding the Jal Jeevan mission? First one, it aims to provide 100 liters of drinking water per capita per day to urban households by 2024. It is a centrally sponsored scheme launched in 2019 to ensure functional household tap connections for all rural households. It is implemented by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. The mission's target has been extended to 2030. Okay, see this next question. Consider the following statements about ED. First one, it was established in 1956 as enforcement unit under Department of Economic Affairs. It is headed by a director and has powers to attach properties under PMLA. PMLA is nothing but Prevention of Money Laundering Act. ED also enforces the Fugitive Economic Offenders Act 2018. Yeah, think about this and tell me the answer. Online students, by this I'm concluding. Thank you so much guys for watching, and if you like this class, please do hit the like button and please do share this class to your friends. And one more thing here is we are going to start new batch for prelims and mains foundation course soon. and admissions are going on. We are providing on both online and offline. And if you want to contact us, please call us on this number 8074765513. Or else if you want to visit Academy directly, you can come to Ashok Nagar, Hyderabad. And exactly above Vikas Books at the second and third floor, we are having our institute. You can come and you can directly talk to us. Thank you so much, guys, and I wish you all the best.